Hello, I'm Bruce Zimmerman, and this is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week. We're doing a series on top-grafted standards because these smaller plants are great in the garden. Now, when I was young, my parents had a top-grafted lilac in the backyard, and it was one of the unusual ones in the fact that it was actually done and budded or grafted onto privet. Now, this is the way lilacs were originally grown. They weren't done on their own roots. So very often what would happen is the reversion would occur from the ground up, and you'd have to separate out the privet or rip out the privet parts and leave any shoots that you did get, which would probably be none on the top grafted standard, just to keep them down, to keep it pure as a lilac. So they stopped doing that, and they started doing them on their own roots. Costs a lot more money to grow a lilac up to that size to be grafted on. So they've become quite expensive. But they're getting better and better at it. And J.C. Backer has a selection of these. Probably some of the best of the newer lilacs. And lilacs that have been around for a long time that are reliable, dependable, hardy, tough. And that's what you're looking for. These lilacs are done as a standard, and therefore you're going to have to maintain their shape, but generally very tough. Hardy in most cases to zone 2. Height is about 7 feet for some and 7 feet across. Now that is the standard, but there are smaller ones. So we'll go and we'll run through them and give you what the sizes, etc., so that you can pick what you should really be putting into the spot in your garden. The first one's Tinkerbell lilac. Now this standard is hardy to zone 2. Height is 7 foot, spread is 7 foot. So it's not small, but it is a small tree. It's very ornamental. It's top grafted. The stem is 3 to 4 feet. It has the burgundy colored flowers which open up to a lavender pink with a spicy fragrance. So you've got some fragrance there. It starts red but goes to a good pink. So that one might be the one for you. Now, Pocahontas is another. This one is a Hyacinthiflora, which means that it has a slightly different shaped floret. So you would be able to tell it from the old French hybrid standard types. Hardy to zone 2, height 5 foot, spread 4 foot. It's on a 3 to 4 foot hardy stem. The flowers are deep maroon purple buds that open to a deep violet floret, which is a good thing, right? Lots of blooms. This one has got a beautiful fragrance and a bronzy red fall color. So not a bad one at all. The next is Boomerang. This standard lilac is hardy to zone 2, height 6 foot by 6 foot wide. It's a rebloomer, which means that you're going to get several sets of lilacs on the same plant, basically spring, midsummer, and probably all the way to frost. So right here, this is the one I'm looking at seriously for that reason alone. The habit's slightly smaller, so it fits into a garden. It's good for cutting. It's fragrant. And supposedly deer resistant. Now remember, with things that are deer resistant, if the deer are hungry enough, they will eat it. And so that's just nature's way. The next one is a weeping lilac. It's called Juliana Hers. I don't know why, but maybe it was hers. Hardy to zone 2, height 6 foot, spread 6 foot. It's a small, delicate leafed weeping lilac. Now, it's got a nice fragrance on it. It's a pendulous light mauve flower, which is the one that most people don't really like because they're so common, but then this one is a weeping one. So that alone should get you going right there. Blooms heavily in the spring and sporadically throughout the summer. So you get a few here and there, which is really nice. I like that idea. So it'll give you a little interest when you're not expecting it. The next one is a dwarf Korean lilacs. Now, I have always liked the Korean lilacs. I'm a little biased on them because this one and the Microphylla superbas, in my opinion, were always the nicest lilacs when I was young. But I guess that's, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. Zone 2 hardiness on the dwarf Korean lilac. Its height is 7 foot, spread is 6 foot. It's grafted on a 3 to 4 foot stem, so it's got masses of fragrant, light pink, purple, lilac blossoms in early spring, and the nice green foliage. And it is a nice green foliage. It's such a nice one that this is one of the reasons why I like it. The next one is the dwarf superba. Now this is your, dwarf lilac. And that's what everybody always called it, even when I was young. Soft, white pink, fragrant flowers. A semi-dwarf cultivar, which is very, very pretty. So think of it more of a lilac-colored one. Smaller flowers, smaller leaves, more compact, but eventually height is 7 foot by 4 foot. That's not bad. You got a spot for that. There is another macrophylla, not a microphylla, a macrophylla, lilac standard. It's hardy to zone 3. Its height is 7 and the spread is 6. It is known as Josie lilac standard. It's a dwarf cultivar. It blooms heavily in the spring, and with some deadheading, it can produce fragrant single lilac flowers throughout the summer and into the fall. It is grafted on a 3 to 4 foot stem. So you've got some repeat bloomings, but you're going to do the deadheading. By the way, in my opinion on all of these, if you can reach them, deadhead the flowers, okay? As soon as the flower is finished, don't let them go to seed. Deadhead back to a good strong leaf or side branch. Now, Beauty of Moscow is an older one. It's been around quite a while. It's got to be at least 20, 25 years. It is considered one of the best of the lilacs in the vulgaris group. And it's hardy to zone 2. Height is 7 foot, spreads 3 foot. The buds are pink and open to double creamy white flowers. Very vigorous, very tough, and it's done on a 3 to 4 foot stem. This one is really, really nice. Well, the first time I saw this in bloom in the Royal Botanical Gardens, I was impressed. And by that time, I was a little jaded on lilacs. When you're going to impress me with a lilac by then it has to be spectacular. The other one that impressed me and still impresses people, it's been around a long time, is called Sensation. And trust me, it is a sensation. It is a fantastic lilac. And people still know it. They can see it from a distance and they know that it's Sensation. It's that distinctive. Hardy to zone 2. Height is 8 foot. Spread is 6 foot. It's got loose panicles of single magenta flowers. Each petal on the flower is outlined in a pure white border, which causes a sensation in the landscape. And that is true. It is top grafted on a 3 to 4 foot stem. It's extremely pretty, but you don't get that second bloom. You don't get, long blooming time. It is the standard vulgaris, late May, early June, usually late May in this area, blooming time. So, but once. So you've got choices here or there. So there you go. Those are the choices for top grafted lilacs. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a whole bunch of them out there. I'm sure you're going to be able to find some others, but these are truly spectacular growing standards for a smaller garden or just for a specimen or a focal point in any garden, pick the right standard for your location and conditions. I'm Bruce Zimmerman. This is the Open Line Garden Show podcast for this week.